What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to this episode of Home Built Workshop. Today, we're going to help Mark install this K&N cold air intake on his 2012 Honda Fit. Check it out. So what we have here is part number 69-1017 TTK. This kit is for 2009 to 2013 Honda Fits with the 1.5 liter engine. Let's pop this baby open and check out what's inside, and then we'll get it installed. All right, so in the box we have, that is going to be a piece of gasket material, packing material, filter,
hoses and clamps,
and the heat shield that is included in a lot of the kits that, at least the ones that I've installed anyway. I think that's about it. Let's get out to the car and start getting this thing installed. So now we're out here at the car. We are going to do this by the instructions. I know that is hard to believe, but we're going to follow it step by step to install this thing. We're going to let Mark do most of the work, and we're just going to help make sure everything goes as planned and according to the instructions. Step 1, disconnect the battery. Please be careful when disconnecting the battery. Don't ever let the tools you're using touch both connectors at the same time. We must consult our instructions.
Disconnect the mass air sensor electrical connection and unhook the wiring harness from the factory airbox.
Now we're going to unhook the mass airflow sensor, remove that, press that little tab down.
Okay. Oh, that's easy enough. Alright.
Now we've got the upper portion of the airbox removed. He's already got one of these drop-in panel filters installed. We're going to save that guy. Now we need to remove the lower portion. This one's bolted in. There's a bolt here and a bolt right down here that we need to remove so we can remove the rest of the airbox. The back bolt is a little bit tricky to get to, but if you use a long extension on the end of your ratchet, it makes it a lot easier. Now we've got to get in here with a Phillips head screwdriver and loosen this hose clamp that connects the upper portion of the airbox to the throttle body. Then we can disconnect all the smaller hoses that are attached and be able to remove the whole airbox. It's those spring clips that I love so much. Is this like a four-handed job?
There we go.
There it is.
This might be interesting. Just getting the thing out.
Good thing you have lots of room in here.
Yeah.
Ow! Now we're going to wrestle aimlessly with the airbox until we get it out of there. They say, oh, just remove it. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Piece of cake. Easy for you to say there, buddy. Oh, man.
There it goes.
Woo! We aced it.
All right.
So that airbox was not as easy to remove as it sounded in the instructions. Isn't that always how things go? We ended up having to loosen this electrical box here and loosen the battery so that we could wiggle them out of place to give us a little bit more room to get the airbags out. But now it's out, let's move on. Now we need to install the weather stripping along the outside edge of the heat shield. Just take your time with this. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get it all the way on. Cool. Now before we can install the heat shield, we have to put this little bracket on there. Don't tighten it all the way though. Next, we have to remove this bolt that holds this ground strap to the engine.
Okay.
We're going to reinstall the ground strap along with this bracket using a new bolt included in the kit. Yeah, there you go. It's good. So there's a few things in the instructions that they don't tell you. This ground strap has this little nub on here. It's supposed to keep it from rotating around, but it does appear that it prevents you from getting it in the right spot. So we're going to snip that little nub off. The other thing not stated in the instructions is the bolt that you take out is very short. It seems as though you need to use one of the bolts supplied in the kit. We'll find out later if we need this for something else, but I feel like you need to use a longer bolt in order to get this thing secured correctly. There are several spots in the instructions where it's not completely clear what you're supposed to do, and those are the points that I'm trying to focus on during this installation. And now
Now we can install the heat shield that has that little L bracket on it. This is another spot where the instructions weren't all that clear. It just says to install the heat shield with the supplied hardware, but they don't exactly tell you which one to use. So a little bit of trial and error, and just use the ones in the package that fits.
It's really just a whole lot of installing bolts loosely and then coming back and tightening them up later. My arm's probably right in the shot, but hey, you know what?
What is?
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yep.
So right now we've got this heat shield just loosely installed, and we actually had to spend a few minutes going over the instructions and the next steps before we actually completely understood them. These hoses and things right here, vent tubes and all that, these are going to be eliminated and replaced with stuff that's in the package. Now the instructions don't clearly state that these are going to all be replaced. It says to remove certain hoses, but they're not very clear. So make sure you spend some time, make sure you understand what you're removing. If you're installing it on this kind of car, this whole part is going to go away. There's a hose right here that's going to be replaced with one that's in the kit. It's going to connect down here by the thermostat housing, and then it's going to connect up in here. And then there's a PVC, I believe, crankcase vent hose that is going to be replaced and have one that goes to the new air tube. So it's a little confusing. This is all going away. There's that guy.
I got him right off.
There's a little funny clip right there that if you get that out of the way, it helps a little bit. Ow!
You alright?
Yes, sir. There's that little guy. He's out of here. Somehow we missed a little bit of recording in there. I'm not sure what happened, if the camera stopped or what. Right now, we just are installing this new coolant bypass hose that goes up here, connects to the throttle body. You are going to lose a little bit of coolant when you're replacing this, so make sure you have a little bit on hand to top it off in case you lose a lot. Try to have your hose clamp ready to go. That way, when you pull the old one off, you can put the new hose on and you can minimize the amount of coolant lost.
So do you want your clamp to be right at the base of where it
Not quite. You can
comes
slide
on?
it up a little bit. You can snug it up just a little bit so that it stays in place,
Okay.
and then you can slide it back a little ways.
We're using a ratchet here to tighten up that hose clamp. It's a little easier to get to than a screwdriver. Then we'll just attach the other end to the port on the throttle body and snug that one up as well.
Go right there.
Like that.
And now we'll work on getting the upper air tube installed by first installing the silicone hose connector. Now we need to remove the mass airflow sensor from the original airbox and install that in the new air tube.
So now we've got the old mass airflow sensor out of the old airbox. Before we put it in the new air tube, I'm gonna just look at it just to make sure everything looks okay. This is not part of the instructions or anything, but if it looked really dirty or somehow inside there, I would want to clean it before reinstalling it.
And is that all you're looking for, Jeff? Is just dirt?
Yeah, I'm just checking it out. I mean, everything, it looks nice and clean. Sometimes you can get some crud and stuff down in there, and it will cause error codes to show up. You know, your check engine light will come on if you get a dirty mass airflow sensor.
Okay, so that's some causes of those kind of things.
Yep. We'll reinstall it in the new intake tube using the supplied hardware. Another thing that's not 100% clear in the instructions is exactly which hardware you're supposed to use. The instructions will say use the included hardware. You kind of got to dig through the pile and figure out what is the best fit. Really, if you just compare what's in the bag to what you're needing, it's not that bad, but it is a little bit confusing when they just say use the included hardware. So just pay attention, make sure you get the right bolts. Next, we have this little plastic tube that goes into this little threaded hole. Now this is plastic, so make sure that it doesn't cross thread.
And is that typical with plastic?
Yeah, plastic is very easy to cross thread. I'm not sure which way this needs to be pointing yet. We'll wait till we get it on the car before snugging it down. You're gonna put your hose clamp on. You're gonna put that guy in there. He's gonna go in. We're gonna tighten that up.
Once the air tube's in place, we'll just tighten down the hose clamps.
Alright.
And now we're going to install this rubber hose that connects to the plastic fitting in the air tube, the other end of which connects over here. Both ends get secured with a hose clamp. Be careful if you're using a ratchet to tighten hose clamps. The added leverage you get from a ratchet can cause you to strip out the hose clamp, so just be careful. And now we can finally install the filter and reconnect our electrical connections. Now with our filter installed, the mass airflow sensor connected, all we're gonna do now is double check all of our fittings and connections, make sure everything's tight. I know we have a few bolts to tighten up on this heat shield. We're gonna double check that really quick before we actually fire this up and take it for a test drive. With everything now installed and oriented correctly, we can now finish tightening up all the bolts on the air tube and the heat shield that we left loose earlier.
Well, it looks like you were right about that other bolt for the ground.
Yeah, didn't say that though.
Nope.
And we don't want to forget to tighten up the electrical box as well as the battery mount that we had to loosen to get the original air box out. And finally, we'll reconnect the battery. So we have gone through, we've double checked all of our connections, some of them even triple checked. Everything is secure. I think we're ready to start this up. What do you think?
I think so. And thank you, Jeff, for your help with this project.
Not a problem. Let's fire it up, see what happens. Make sure we don't have any engine codes or any kind of lights to deal with. I will be right here to make sure nothing flies off.
Okay.
Everything appears okay here. So everything seems to be okay. We've got no engine lights or anything. We're gonna let Mark take this thing for a test drive, and then we will see what the general consensus is as to how much improvement this made.
That is awesome. Definitely tell the difference.
So Mark's back from the test drive. How did it go?
Test drive went awesome, Jeff. I definitely feel that the acceleration and all that is not lagging at all. It seems to have a lot more horsepower. Gets where it needs to go pretty quick.
So. Right on. So definitely noticeable. Do you recommend it?
I definitely recommend it.
Cool. I'll put a link below if you're interested in picking up a kit like this. So again, this is K&N part number, I don't remember.
691017 TTK.
If you want to check it out for the 2009 to 13
Yes.
Honda Fit with the 1.5 liter engine. Hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Ring the bell so you get notifications when we post new videos. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, welcome to Home Built Workshop. Is that a little less robotic?
Remember this guy?
Yeah, robot dude.
Tighten it up the right way this time.
Yeah, not loosening. So are you filming?
Yeah.
You got that little thing right here.
I love that car. Try it again, but tightening instead of loosening.
That might be helpful, huh?
Bam!
Bam.
Stepping it up a notch.